To this now, Johannesburg Mayor Kabelo Gwamanda says the cleaning up of illegally occupied buildings in the inner city will be prioritised in an attempt to prevent another Usindiso building fire incident. He made the remarks during his State of the City address at the Johannesburg Council Chambers. The tragic Usindiso building fire claimed the lives of 76 people and left dozens of others injured and displaced. Gwamanda says incidents such as this must be prevented at all costs. Our reporter Mbalenhle Mthethwa has been following the story for us and joins us now live in studio. Mbalenhle, thank you so much for your time and, of course, good afternoon. So just talk to us about the key, objectives and messages that the mayor had, because, as you know, the problems that Johannesburg residents are facing, at the top of that list is your water challenges, your electricity challenges. How did he address those?
Well, certainly, when we talk about water challenges, the water challenges in the city of Johannesburg have made headlines for a number of reasons. And it seems as though there are plans to try and renew and refurbish the infrastructure at the Johannesburg Water Office, which is really an entity belonging or owned by the city of Johannesburg, but also in a relationship or in partnership with the provincial government and through its the city power, which is also another entity owned by the city of Johannesburg. They are trying to, cushion residents from load shedding. And this is also in an effort to bolster up economic activity, which is obviously affected in every time there is load shedding in the area. You will remember that just a few weeks ago, there was the opening of that turbine power substation in the inner city that has been reopened. And there are other efforts to ensure that, the city power doesn't only rely on Eskom, but also gets energy from other sources of renewable sources of energy, such as renewable energy, and one of those includes solar and others. So we are seeing the provincial government, which led by the Gauteng Premier Panyaza Lesufi, as well as different municipalities, working together to launch all of these initiatives intended to add more megawatts onto the grid.
I want to talk about what we've just said now in our introduction in terms of illegal buildings in the inner city. We've seen with that Usindiso building how 76 people died when a fire occurred there. Some of these buildings are dilapidated. I know that at the time we were reporting over 200 or so illegal buildings. What did he have to say, and did he inspire confidence in terms of, is the city addressing that problem?
Now, illegally occupied buildings, or better known as hijacked buildings in the inner city, are a very important issue. And this is an issue that has been raised by many residents, and those, and more prominently after the Usindiso fire building, the building fire, which really was tragic, and the loss of life there was really unfortunate and should have never happened. And it seems as though what the city of Johannesburg is doing is to introduce a different strategy, and this different strategy involves going to court, and instead of seeking an eviction notice on the basis of illegal occupation, they have now taken on the stance of evicting people on the basis of safety. If the building is unsafe for humans or people to to be, well, if the building is, to live in it and to dwell in it, then obviously those people should not be staying in the building. And this is all in an effort, because if you look at the Usindiso building inquiries, you do understand that these buildings, the fire was fueled by hazardous materials which were already inside, and these buildings are later divided by using wood and all these other things, which means that if there's a fire, it's just like a shack, and it just keeps fueling the fire all the way to the top of the building.
As you're speaking, I'm reminded about the incident that we saw on the M1 where we had this fire on the road. So the issue of crime also comes up. Did he touch on crime at all, especially as it relates to the destruction of valuable infrastructure? in this case, it was, of course, suspected that it was cable thieves who caused this fire. I mean, we're talking about millions of rands worth of damage. Is the city, gaining control in as far as crime is concerned? And while you answer that question, I want you to also bring in the fact of illegal miners.
Okay. Now, illegal mining has also been touched on during the State of the City address today, or earlier on today. And one of the issues there is that crucial infrastructure is damaged as a result of illegal mining. We've seen sinkholes emerging just around anywhere. And what happens when these sinkholes begin is that the road is barricaded and nothing else ever really happens, or it takes a very long time for that sinkhole to be covered again. But what is most important is that the communities who live around those illegal mining operations live in fear and are always locking themselves up because they get caught up in the gun battles between rivaling groups that obviously want to take over the illegal mine for whatever reason and so on. And I mean, one of those communities that the mayor did mention was the community of Rivoli, where we have, as journalists, been called there for many reasons, such as, gunfights between Zamazamas, as well as, just the bombing, the underneath, not necessarily bombing, but, the mining activity happening underneath their homes, hearing people talking right underneath their homes while they're sitting and trying to have their dinner. But what's important that we really need to touch on is the issue of revenue enhancement and ratepayers being urged to pay their services.
Yeah, talk to us about that. I mean, we saw, of course, how this played out, with the city manager almost being arrested because there was an arrest warrant, against him, where, in fact, a ratepayer had successfully interdicted the city from, switching off their electricity. So we're seeing these, these stories recurring time and time again in as far as incorrect billing is concerned, but also that crucial matter of, ratepayers actually not paying.
Certainly. Now, the mayor has seemingly given two messages. The one message is to the councillors following reports that councillors own a collective amount of more than 2 million rand to the city of Johannesburg. Wow. And it would seem as though those who are serving within the city of Johannesburg are not necessarily, abiding by the rules and are also defaulting and are not even abiding by what seems to be a payment arrangement that has been concluded and reached between themselves and the city of Johannesburg. And you hear the mayor during his address speaking on that and addressing councillors directly and saying, councillors, we need to be exemplary citizens in ensuring that, we set a good example, because every cent that is then spent towards rate paying or paying rates is an investment into the city and ensuring that, the city is able to deliver services and also invest in infrastructure, crucial infrastructure that will assist the city of Johannesburg. And then the second message is to ratepayers themselves, and also just reiterating the fact that they are taking a no-nonsense stance and the fact that they are willing to even go as far as enforcing whatever mechanisms they have within the law in order to ensure that they are able to recoup what has been lost in the past. So that is the strong and stern message at the moment that has been issued out by the mayor, not only to the residents but also to the councillors who are in council. But then you hear the Democratic Alliance criticizing the stance, saying that there is a billing crisis in the city of Johannesburg, and if there is a need and a demand for everyone to pay, then there needs to be efforts by the city of Johannesburg to correct that crisis and ensure that people are paying, or rather are paying or are billed according to their use.
And of course, service delivery then becomes an issue, because are they getting the right service, in order for them to sort out this mess? But Mbali, very quickly, we have to wrap. But did you get a sense, I mean, it is 3 weeks or so to elections. Did you get a sense that this was also an opportunity for the mayors? I mean, you've also had an opportunity to attend the one in Ekurhuleni, that this was some form of, garnering for some form of support going into the elections?
Well, I don't want to venture into analyzing it, but what you do find in what's different about this year's State of the City addresses is that there's a focus on social housing, something that wasn't necessarily there, and plans to, in the city of Ekurhuleni, you hear of plans to build 100,000 houses, electrify informal settlements. Obviously, that is something that speaks directly to the voters, and obviously an attempt that we could, by one way or the other, we could assume is intended to persuade voters to vote in a certain manner. And this time around in the city of Johannesburg, we heard about the entity owned by the city of Johannesburg, Joshco, and the amount of houses that they've managed to build. But these are not RDP houses, but these are rental units, and the number of people who are staying in those rental units and so on, and how they've been able to house these people and maintain all of those buildings. So that's the difference, between what we heard last year and this year. We also heard from the city of Ekurhuleni that there are plans to forge ahead and build that University of Ekurhuleni, among others, So it is really just one of those addresses that speaks to, your ordinary South Africans and plans to improve their lives. And that's what really gives you the impression that, they are trying to persuade